Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I and my team, Vaibhav Jain, M. Srinivas Raghavan, K. Ishank Reddy, and Anvit Koti, are going to present this video for you guys. In the 19th century, industrial Europe experienced a significant shift in food production and consumption. Self sufficiency in food in Britain led to lower living standards and social conflict due to increased demand and rising grain prices. The government imposed the corn laws to restrict corn imports, causing discontent among industrialists and urban dwellers who demanded their abolition. After the corn laws were scrapped, cheaper food imports flooded Britain, leading to vast uncultivated lands and widespread unemployment. As industrial growth accelerated, higher incomes drove up food consumption. This led to the emergence of a global agricultural economy, with food being sourced from distant lands and transported via railways and ships. Colonialism also played a crucial role as European powers expanded their territories, resulting in painful economic, social, and ecological changes in the colonized societies. Advancements in technology, such as refrigerated ships, enabled the transport of perishable goods and facilitated trade expansion. Though trade flourished and markets expanded, there was a darker side to this. Many regions experienced the loss of freedoms and livelihoods due to the closer ties with the world economy. Overall, the changing pattern of food production and colonial expansion in the late 19th century reshaped economies, labor movements, and technology worldwide, creating a complex global interconnectedness with both positive and negative sequences.
In the 1890s, Africa faced the devastating cattle disease, rinderpest, brought by the infected cattle from British Asia. This disease caused a massive loss of cattle, disrupting African livelihoods. European colonizers capitalized on this disaster, monopolizing scarce cattle resources and further exploiting African labor. During the 19th century, Indian indentured workers migrated globally, seeking work on plantations, mines, and construction projects. Economic changes in India forced many to seek employment abroad under harsh conditions, leading to the emergence of cultural fusions and resilience. The impact of rinderpest and the migration of Indian laborers show the complex dynamics of disease, colonialism, and economic forces during the 19th
The
century.
interwar economy. The First World War, 1914 to 18, was fought in Europe, but its impact was felt around the world. During this period, the world experienced widespread economic and political instability and another catastrophic war. Wartime transformations. The First World War was fought between the Allies, Britain, France, and Russia, which was later joined by the US, and the Central Powers, Germany, Austria Hungary, and the Ottoman Turkey, which saw the use of machine guns, tanks, aircrafts, chemical weapons, etc., on a massive scale. During the war, industries were restructured to produce war related goods. Britain borrowed large sums of money from US banks as well as the US public, transforming the US from being an international debtor to an international creditor. Post war recovery. Post war economic recovery. Britain, the world's leading economy, faced a prolonged crisis. Industries had developed in India and Japan while Britain was preoccupied with the war. Britain, after the war, found it difficult to recapture its earlier position of dominance in the Indian market and compete with Japan internationally. At the end of the war, Britain was burdened with huge external debts. Anxiety and uncertainty about work became an enduring part of the post war scenario. Rise of mass production and consumption. The US economy recovered quicker and resumed its strong growth in the early 1920s. Mass production is one of the most important features of the US economy, which began in the late 19th century. Henry Ford is a well known pioneer of mass production, a car manufacturer who established his car plant in Detroit. The T model Ford was the world's first mass produced car. Fordist industrial practices soon spread in the US and were also copied in Europe in the 1920s. The demand for refrigerators, washing machines, etc. also boomed, financed once again by loans.
The Great Depression. The period of the Great Depression began around 1929 and lasted till the mid 1930s. Most part of the world experienced catastrophic declines in production, employment, incomes, and trade. The most affected areas were agricultural regions and communities. A combination of several factors led to depression. The first factor is agricultural overproduction. The second is in the mid 1920s. Many countries financed their investments through loans from the US. The rest of the world is affected by the withdrawal of US loans in different ways. The US was also severely affected by the depression. Unfortunately, the US banking system collapsed as thousands of banks were bankrupt and was forced to close. India and the Great Depression. Indian trade is immediately affected by the depression. The prices of agriculture fell sharply, but still the colonial government refused to reduce revenue demands. In those depression years, India became an exporter of precious metals, notably gold. Rural India was thus seething with unrest when Mahatma Gandhi launched the civil disobedience movement at the height of the Depression in 1931.
Rebuilding a world economy. The post-war era. 2 decades after the end of First World War, the Second World War broke out. It was fought between the Axis, mainly Nazi Germany, Japan, and Italy, the Allies, Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and the US. The war continued for 6 years over the land, on the sea, and in the air. The war caused an immense amount of economical devastation and social disturbance. Post-war reconstruction was shaped by two crucial influences. The first is that the US emerged as the dominant economic, political, and military power in the Western world. The second was the dominance of Soviet Union. Post-war settlements and Bretton Woods institution. Two key lessons were drawn out from the interwar economical experience. First, mass production cannot be sustained without mass communication. The second related a country economic link with the outside world. The International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, popularly known as the World Bank, was set up to finance the post-reconstruction. The IMF and the World Bank commanded the financial operations in 1947. The IMF and the World Bank were designed to meet the financial need of the industrialized country. The IMF and the World Bank from the late 1950s shifted their attention towards more developing countries. Most developing countries were not benefited from the fast-growing growth of Western economic experience, the 1950s and 1960s market. They organized as a group of 77 and demanded a new international economic order, NIEO, end of Bretton Woods and the beginning of globalization. The US financial and competitive strength was weakened due to rise of cost of its overseas involvement from the 1960s. In the mid-1970s, the international finance system also changed. The industrialized world was hit by unemployment. MNCs began to shift their production to low-wage Asian countries.